Continuing further with our airline fleet series, we once again head to Southeast Asia to look at the fleet of Malaysia Airlines. Our last look at this carrier's aircraft collection took place on October 23, 2022, and so let's see how much has changed over the past 3 years. Looking at the One World Alliance members' mainline fleet only, we see the following aircraft types and quantities as of mid-October 2025, with data from planespotters.net. 4 A330-200s, 15 A330-300s, 7 A330-900s, 7 A350-900s, 40 737-800s, and finally 14 737 MAX 8s. This makes for a total of 87 aircraft in the mainline fleet, which excludes regional subsidiaries Firefly and Mass Wings. We should also note that planespotters.net lists 3 A330-200F freighters flying for Malaysia Airlines. And so, what has changed after 3 years? Well, on the narrow-body side, the airline has 4 fewer 737-800s. Some of these hopped over to group subsidiary Firefly, while 2 others have since moved over to Rwand Air to fly with the African airline. Over time, we'll be sure to see more 737-800s retired as more 737 MAX 8s get delivered. And speaking of the newer generation 737, all 14 of these airframes have arrived since November 2023. Only 3 were delivered in 2024, while so far 9 have arrived in 2025. Moving up to Widebodies, the carrier appears to have 2 fewer A330-200 passenger aircraft due to their leases expiring. We see that these are or were registered 9 Mike Tango Uniform and Mike Tango Victor, and exited the fleet in November 2024 and February 2025 respectively. The carrier's 15 Airbus A330-300s remain unchanged, but the entirety of Malaysia Airlines A330-900 fleet, all 7 at the time of making this video, have arrived over the past few years. The first of these arrived in late November 2024. Malaysia Airlines also has 1 additional A350-900 compared to late 2022. Delivered to the carrier in November 2023, the aircraft registered 9 Mike Alpha Hotel has a different configuration from the other A350s operating with the carrier. While every other airframe has 286 seats across 3 classes, the newer jet has a higher density with 300 seats. It lacks a first class like the others, but has a premium economy cabin where the others do not. And why is this the case? Well, the jet was previously operated by Scandinavian operator SAS. However, it was in July 2022 that the carrier filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection and was working to cut costs, including terminating some leases and letting go of a few aircraft. And so, after the ex-SAS A350 exited Scandinavian operations, it was stored at Victorville between January and November 2023, and subsequently ferried to Kuala Lumpur to begin operations with Malaysia Airlines. As for aircraft still to be delivered, chaviation.com data lists 28 more A330-900s, 29 more 737 MAX 8s, and 12 737 MAX 10s. The site also lists 8 ATR 72-600s, but we assume that these will go to either Mass Wings or Firefly. On the topic of the A330-900s, Malaysia Airlines confirmed just this year, in July 2025, that it was exercising options for an additional 20 A330neo jets, doubling the size of its A330 commitment with Airbus. The agreement was announced in Paris during a visit by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, building on the carrier's initial order for 20 airframes placed in 2022. Deliveries of these 20 aircraft are scheduled between 2029 and 2031, and this will make Malaysia Airlines one of the region's largest A330neo operators. And then for 737 MAX orders, it was on March 21, 2025 that Boeing and Malaysia Airlines announced an order for up to 60 MAX aircraft, split into 30 firm purchases and 30 options. Of the 30 firm orders, the carrier opted for 18 737 MAX 8 and 12 737 MAX 10. Boeing noted that the new order would enable the Malaysian airline to, quote, introduce new lie-flat seats. Seeming to confirm this, Malaysia Airlines statement notes that the airline will be installing lie-flat business class seats on the 737 MAX 10 aircraft, thus elevating the premium travel experience on regional routes. The airline is aiming for a modernized narrow-body fleet of 55 Boeing 737 MAX 8s and Boeing 737 MAX 10s by 2030. And so, what else is notable about the Malaysia Airlines fleet? Well, we know that the airline's very first A330-900 had a bit of a rough entry into service. In late 2024, we reported that this first airframe was grounded just days after its inaugural flight to Melbourne, Australia, due to multiple technical issues. According to a report by the New Straits Times, the A330neo, registered 9 Mike November Golf, suffered a total of 3 technical issues during its inaugural flight on December 19, 2024. Commenting on the grounding, the Group Managing Director at Malaysia Aviation Group, Izam Ismail, told the media, Malaysia Airlines has suffered a series of technical issues arising from poor quality work from the factory, and this has impacted Malaysia Airlines' inaugural flight. The root cause is coming from the factory, and it is affecting the reputation and brand of Malaysia Airlines. It's unfair for the brand. Safety is paramount. I will not risk anything on safety. OEMs must be held accountable. This happening to a brand new aircraft is not acceptable. To me, it's embarrassing. The new, at the time, A330neo, powered by Rolls-Royce Trent 7000 engines, had to undergo repairs, and airline leaders never made public the exact nature of the technical faults. In a comment to Simple Flying, a Rolls-Royce spokesperson said that their initial troubleshooting has, quote, identified a faulty component and the replacement of that part is in progress. And so we can see that at least one of the issues, if not all 3, had to do with the jet's engines rather than the Airbus airframe. Thankfully, it seems like the airframe has been more or less problem-free since this initial setback. But that's essentially all the fleet information and news that we have on Malaysia Airlines. We see that the airline is firmly an all-Boeing narrow-body operator and has chosen Airbus Widebodies for its long-haul intercontinental operations. In case you were wondering, the carrier uses its A330s to serve the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand and destinations across East Asia. Doha sees a mix of A330s and A350s, while Paris and London exclusively receive the airline's A350s. With the airline being a One World member, its relatively high capacity on Kuala Lumpur-Doha route is due to its quote-unquote enhanced strategic partnership with fellow One World airline, Qatar Airways. The two carriers struck a deal in 2022 to significantly expand their codeshare cooperation. But getting back to the fleet, the carrier is a drastically different airline now than before the pandemic, when it operated 6 Airbus A380 Super Jumbos. These double-deckers were delivered between 2012 and 2013, but sadly exited the fleet in 2020. Interestingly, all 6 are now registered with Airbus. 5 are registered with Airbus Financial Services, while the other is registered with Airbus Industry. Planespotters.net notes that this jet, with MSN 114, is designated as a testbed, and so it'll be interesting to see what Airbus has planned for the airframe. What do you think of Malaysia Airlines fleet and its choice of Boeing narrowbodies and Airbus widebodies? Let us know by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.